Wow, 20,000 subscribers. I honestly didn't think I'd see this day coming so soon. So, as a special treat to all of you guys, I have put out a special question and answer session. I've been collecting these questions for a couple of days, and I'm gonna answer them here. Although, first I think we should start off with, who am I? No, really, I got that question like 5 times. I am Kohdok. I refer to myself as Toy Reviewer Extraordinary, and I'm a lot different from a lot of your typical toy reviewers out there because unlike a lot of them who usually just open the box and play with the toy for a bit, I usually go in depth on what I talk about. I talk about the toy and how it works, I talk about the ins and outs, things that are good and bad about it, and I really love talking about connected media, like if it's attached to a TV show or a video game or something like that. That is kind of where I really hit my groove, is talking about merchandise-driven media, specifically those pieces of entertainment that are designed to push a brand, although those are actually pretty common these days. But the thing about that is a lot of people tend to disregard them. They say, oh, it's just a glorified toy commercial. And I'm like, no, I feel this is a place that is worthy of exploration. So a lot of my best and most popular videos, for example, my Slugterra video, are exactly that kind of video where I talk about everything. I talk about the toys, I talk about the media, I maybe throw in a few jokes here and there. But yeah, that's me going forward. So if I've appeared on your dash for the first time, the YouTube algorithm grabbed one of my videos and ran with it. So, hey, it's nice to meet you guys, although all of you fans who I've had from the beginning, it's nice to see you guys again too. So for our next question, Anna asks, what made you get into toy reviews? Bam, this right here. My channel started off as a Bakugan channel, which was all about Bakugan, which were these little toy marbles that when they hit a magnetic card would spring and become these battling monsters. It was a really fun series, and it is what got my channel off the ground. Believe me, I have not forgotten an ounce of the support that that community gave me. It's why I still have this poster back here. It's why I have the big frisbee on my table, although you can't see it in this shot, you see it in plenty of videos. That is to commemorate the fact that that is the series that got my start. And I know my recent Bakugan videos have basically been telling people to curb their enthusiasm, but believe me, if we get like an official trailer, an official press release, something official, not like an announcement of an announcement or an investor meeting dossier leak, I mean like a real trailer, real product images, all that, believe me, I'll be just as hype as you guys are. Although, as for how I got into toy reviews in general, I kind of realized that Bakugan couldn't sustain my channel forever, so I, one Christmas, went and made a series of 12 videos about toys that were not Bakugan, and that is sort of what got me to here. I Do Stuff asks, congrats! Thank you. I have a question. What is your favorite LEGO set? What is my favorite LEGO set is a bit of a difficult question, because as the saying goes, there is no perfect pasta sauce, there are only perfect pasta sauces. I like a bunch of different sets for a bunch of different reasons. I mean, I guess Kopaka would be the obvious answer. He's my favorite character from Bionicle, and Bionicle itself is actually a really interesting subject because it is proof positive of the power of really well-constructed merchandise-driven entertainment. Because, believe it or not, before Bionicle came out, LEGO tried twice to do something remarkably like it, which is have a set of 6 elementally themed robot characters that came in canisters. We had Throwbots and we had Robo-Riders, like this guy here. I'm actually a little surprised and actually a little disappointed that nobody noticed that I'd snuck this guy in with all of my Bionicle figures in my recent Bionicle video. But yeah, it was basically the same thing. It got the very basic kind of support, a couple of online games, a few pages talking about the characters, but with Bionicle, they gave it supporting lore. They gave you lore that you got to pick at really slowly. They had this wonderful world to explore. They had the comic books. They really went all out on making well-constructed lore and literature, and that helped Bionicle tremendously. I cannot overstate just what it did for Bionicle. As for other sets, I'm not really a fan of sets that are super huge or that contain characters that I really like, with the exception of like Lego-made properties like Bionicle. But I like sets that do something interesting. I like there's a set in LEGO Elves, I can't remember the name, but It's a boat, and you literally built the boat sideways. It's kind of crazy if you actually put it together. Those kinds of fun builds like that. And if we're talking off-brand, there is, of course, the Mega Bloks Pokemon stuff, which is good and blocky, which I really like. There's the Black Seas, the Black General, which is a ghost ship version of the Black Seas Barracuda, which is made by a Chinese company called Enlighten. But I'd say some of my fondest LEGO memories are from when I was younger, you know, around the time of the Aquanauts and stuff like that. But the set that I remember the most clearly from my childhood was from LEGO Adventures with Johnny Thunder, and it had, at least I'm pretty sure that's his name, it was like an Indiana Jones Pulp Fiction character with a hat that was like half folded like a slouch. And it was a biplane that came in one of my stocking stuffers. I think I was 7. I was not very old when I got this set. It was a $7 set, then it would be like a $13 set now. But it was a biplane, and I remember just loving the heck out of that biplane, even though it was, I think, like less than 70 pieces, somewhere in that ballpark. It's a great example of less is more, because I went and I rebuilt it. I mean, I remember it having like this big bulky tail section that I wish came in more pieces, but I remember like rebuilding it into a push prop plane. I remember doing all sorts of fun stuff with that set, and like I said, a lot of people say it's the quality over the quantity, because kids with fewer toys tend to enjoy those toys more because they get more attention to them, and kids with a lot of toys, you know, it becomes about acquisition, and toys, in my opinion, should not be solely about acquisition. I despise those kinds of toys. So things like collectibles that exist solely to be collected unless they're like themed after characters you like, I'm not a terribly big fan of those. David Nabby asks, if you could improve a toy line, which toy line and how? Example, like make the Zack Storm figures bigger and without loot boxes. The thing about that question is an example that you talked about is I tend to say something like that in every video review I do. So if I have something that I would change about a line, I mention it specifically in the video about that line. That's the thing. If I'm not like totally in love with a toy line, I try to at least say something nice about it or make a positive suggestion. Like the Zack Storm thing he was talking about, Zack Storm was particularly frustrating because Zag Heroes was like, hey, we've made, because the toy people who made Zack Storm are Bandai, you know, Power Rangers Bandai. Basically, making talking toy weapons is their bread and butter. So Zag Heroes comes along with a series that says, hey, our show is about a talking sword. Do you think you could make the toys for it? You know, that's right up Bandai's alley, but Bandai just totally ignored that. Bandai of America is a mess right now. I mean, I can kind of understand how they lost the Power Rangers license to Hasbro. I'm sorry to say they've been a bit of a disaster lately. Like I said, I try to put forth an example in every series that I talk about. When I talk about it, I try to suggest something better, like maybe how you could fix the show or how you could fix the lore or the toys in general. And like I said, that's kind of my shtick. If you go and look at things like my Slugterra video or my Bargain Bin Redux videos, which are when I pick up a series that I had talked about before that flopped and I try to analyze why and figure that out. That's kind of what I want to do on this channel. I want to really understand how merchandise-driven media works at its best, because I don't think like anybody really understands it or tries to understand it. A lot of people say, oh, it's just a glorified toy commercial, I'm just gonna ignore it. And these are people who talk about cartoons, people like Pan Pizza and stuff. They tend to ignore those kinds of shows, and which I really think is a shame, because you have things like Gundam or Friendship is Magic, and those are shows that go above and beyond. You know, they go with that Michael Eisner phrase, our duty is not to make art, it is to make money, but if we want to make money, we should probably make art. It just goes to show. Ultimate Ventus 712, hey, longtime fan, says, you've come a long way, my friend, since I subscribed February 2011. Hey, thanks. Congratulations. Yeah, thanks. You've earned my question. What are some of your all-time favorite toys that you feel didn't get the attention they deserved? That's an easy one. Zoids. Zoids is a series that actually did pretty well when it first came out in the United States. It launched as Zoids New Century Zero, followed up with Zoids 1999, which was known as Zoids Chaotic Century. It did actually pretty well when it launched, but I honestly feel that it deserves to be more part of the discourse, because it is such a fascinating series. The first season of Zoids Chaotic Century, the one that does not include Guardian Force, I honestly think is a forgotten masterpiece. It does so many interesting things. I mean, not only do they do a masterful job combining CG and traditional animation in 1999, honestly, what's your excuse, Berserk? But it actually tackles war in a different direction, in a direction that I usually don't see shows do it, and it does so without being preachy or gory. It's amazing how well it does it, and it's a real shame that the third season, Zoids Fusors, was so terrible because honestly it had the best toys. It had things like the Konig Wolf and all of the Zoids blocks. It got the best sets, but the absolute worst show. And then it was followed up by Zoids Genesis, which is unfortunately one of those try-hard, preachy things, and easily the worst toys. I mean, how much fun is a model kit that comes to you half-assembled? But Zoids in general, I wish we heard a lot more about, because it had some of the pioneering animation for combining CG and traditional animation made for television. Is Zoids Chaotic Century, Zoids 1999 is honestly the first place I have seen that, and the first place I've seen it done so well. I mean, they did have the advantage of it being about robots, which look really nice in vector drawings, but at the same time, I can't help but notice how it compares to other things. I have a huge thing planned for Zoids Chaotic Century next year to celebrate its 20th anniversary. Believe me, I am going to be all over that in the future. Jack Maverick asks, what game-based toy that you have reviewed has ever come close or even surpasses Bakugan? Battle Claw. I'm actually not being ironic there. Battle Claw is a fantastically designed toy-based game that sadly got really badly treated by everything else around it. Now, what I'm talking about when I mean toy-based game, that's something like Bakugan, where it's like a card game, but at the same time there is a skill challenge associated with it. Like, with Bakugan, there is certainly strategy involved in picking your characters and setting your cards, but there's also skill involved in having your characters land on the cards in order to actually get them into play. So it's a combination of a skill challenge with a bit of luck and a bit of strategy, and Battle Claw is the same way. I mean, a lot of the cards in Battle Claw are total duds. There's a lot of chaff in that set, but there is so much potential in this design. I have never seen a game where a viable strategy is to take your opponent's pieces from the pile to put them on your characters to prevent them from using it. That's really something I've never seen before. And like I said, it's a crane game claw with a bunch of little colorful creatures. It's easy to understand. And there is actually a lot of really interesting strategy in Battle Claw. I've seen two really good setups. I've seen Wyvern Weaver, where you combine that with cards like Landslide that increase the power of its whooshing bonus, since it always gets its whooshing bonus, and Terrazog. Terrazog is one of the super beasts, which means you have to have two matching Jinlins in order to make it work. But there's a card that lets you, if you grab one piece of it, you get to take the other piece from the field for free. So when it attacks, it basically knocks all the Jinlins and power-up tokens off of your opponent. It's really interesting. What you do is, in Battle Claw, there's this pile of Jinlins in the center. You throw out the claw, it grabs the Jinlins, and you use those Jinlins as the currency. They're your resource that you use on your turn to play cards, draw cards, power up monsters. It's a really interesting game mechanic. The problem is, first of all, the toys were horribly mistreated. Only one store picked them up, and that was Toys R Us, and they put them in the absolute worst place in the store. They put it a really hefty distance away from every other toy that was like it, which did not help it at all. And then there's the show, and the show is terrible, enjoyably so, but the problem with that is that this toy's target audience is likely not in the mood for that kind of show. So it's an example of a great product being shafted by everything else around it, its distribution and its supporting media. And it's an example of the dangers that can happen when you make something great, but it does not get the support it needs. Pob asks, congratulations on 20,000 subscribers. Thank you. I've been watching your videos since before I was even 10 years old. I'm almost 17 now. Anyway, on the topic of the recent bankruptcy of Toys R Us, what was your favorite thing or memory involving the store? Yeah, that's something that I've honestly been meaning to make a video about. I'm just so heartbroken over it because I'm just gonna cut to the chase. A company that size cannot collapse that catastrophically unless it was an inside job. Basically, the reason Toys R Us closed is because a bunch of people at the top felt that they could make a ton of short-term profit by liquidating the stores. So basically, a small number of people at the very top benefited at the cost of everyone else. Welcome to modern capitalism, kiddos. But anyway, enough about that. The question was, what is my favorite memory of Toys R Us? And that is easy. 2 words. Pokemon League. Pokemon League got its start at Toys R Us. Basically, every weekend, a couple dozen of us would go and we'd take over the Toys R Us break room for a couple hours a day and just play cards against each other, get rewards, get free promos like the Chain Evolution Eevee that is, like I said, would still be an amazing card today. But yeah, that was it was a couple of hours every weekend. It was my routine to go there, and I was young enough that part of that routine was I would get booster packs for doing well in school. Like when I got my report card, my dad would buy me 2 booster packs for every A and 1 for every B. So roughly every 6 weeks or so, I would be able to just get a bunch of booster packs. And I remember there was one time where the booster packs were buy 2, get 1 free, and I took advantage of that like really crazy. But just on leagues in general, if you're the kind of person who, if your mom says you need to get out more, if somebody says you need to get out more, join a league. If you go to your local card game league, everybody's there for the same reason. It's really easy to strike up a conversation. It is a fantastic outlet for social contact. And like I said, we wouldn't really have the sorts of leagues that we have today if it wasn't for Toys R Us and Pokemon, because Toys R Us is where toys go to get discovered. There's a reason that so many toy manufacturers fought to try to save it, and that's because, you know, things like your LOL Surprise and your Hatchimals, those things weren't really picked up by other stores until they were successful at Toys R Us. And now that Toys R Us is gone, a lot of it's going to be left in the hands of stores like Walmart and Target, who don't really understand the toy market as well. They're going to be buying a bunch of movie licensed toys, which lately have just been absolute sales poison. They have been doing awful, but we're going to see even more of them in stores because, like I said, I am super stressed out about the fact that Toys R Us closed. It is really disheartening to me that this has happened. Honestly, I think that's enough for now. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for your questions, and thank you so much for the subscriptions. Please ring the bell. Please share the videos if you enjoy them. I try to be the kind of guy who's a one-stop shop for everything. Like, I have gotten at least one comment from a parent that I need to frame on my wall where they said, oh my god, this is exactly the kind of video I'm looking for. So many of the videos just have the people busting these open and playing them, and you actually talk about the toy and what it's about, and I want more of that. I'm definitely going to try to make more of that. A lot of my more popular videos recently seem to be ones where I talk specifically about the media, the merchandise-driven media and how it gets supported, and believe me, that is the stuff I love to talk about the most. So you can bet I'm going to be doing some more coverage on that. So until next time, thank you so much for the 20,000 subscribers, and until next time, this is Kohdok signing off.